Hello guys, and welcome everyone. Name is Austerius. Today we're gonna be talking about Barbarian build, Upheaval build, one of not very ordinary build. We are in season 5. This is season where the Barbarian was kind of downgraded quite a bit. You know how Diablo is right now. We are in the 5th season. There is quite a bit of a new builds, a variety of builds you can create for different classes, which is I personally like. However, being the Diablo, the game is awfully balanced, and there's tiny amount of builds that can reach this S tier, tier 1, basically step in the ladder, which just means they can do every single the hardest content in a game relatively easy, right? There's very little bit of those build. The best build for Barbarian so far is there the Whirlwind build. Is it the Whirlwind build, or there is also the Death Blow built in the new season using a new item here, which is also pretty good. But they kind of like tier 2 builds, right? They can't step into the realm of really truly tier 1 builds yet. Upheaval build, we're gonna be talking good things, we're gonna be talking bad things about it. I'm gonna be demonstrating how the build works, what the build can perform, what is like skill order, right? What kind of skills and in what order you're gonna be using this build. We're gonna be talking about items, we're gonna be talking about skills itself, we're gonna be talking about Paragon boards in this video. Should be a pretty long one, around 1 hour or so. But I want to share all the information, put everything I knew about the build. So if you want to try it, you're not gonna be spending much time thinking about it, right? What to do. You already have a plan, and you already have steps to improve on. If you want to just check it out, how the build works, I'm gonna talk extensively about how it works and how it's not works, in what situation and what not, right? So Upheaval know us very clunky skill, to say the least, right? Maybe the worst build will be for Barbarian, something like the Thorns build or something. I actually don't know. But the Upheaval as itself very clunky skill, and we're using also the Steep Grasp over here, which is also kind of quite clunky, and I'm gonna be explaining why and what it need to be done to improve it. Upheaval is very slow build as well. It just only damage enemies in forward direction around you, so it's definitely worse than the Whirlwind. And if you're looking at the ladder, right, if you go into the challenges and you check in the ladder, challenges, the trials obviously, and you check in the ladder. Anyway, we did try the ladder with this Barbarian build, with this Upheaval build. It's not perfect yet. We spent 50 hours in the build. It's my first build in this season, so I don't have materials. Don't gonna stuff, and it's not suited to kill level 200 uber bosses to get this what they call mystic unique items, right? To try to get mystic. So if you're playing it solo and if you don't have the gear to gear up, well, the gear I currently have is probably the limit that's okay for like 50 hours to get, like if you maybe less than 50 hours. But trying to do anything else is just too much. So yeah, 105 points into solo ladder. It's put me like in somewhere around 600 place. If you're looking at the Barbarian, it's actually on top ladders here. Alright, profile. Okay. profile. You see the people just using Whirlwind builds, right? And there's 3 mystic unique items that my build also gonna be benefited quite a bit from, but we don't have it, and we're gonna be taking about what we can supplement for that. Alright, so Harlequin Crest, the new item, with this plus damage reduction for to all skills. There is a Ring of Starless Sky, plus 3 to core skills, currently Masterwork 12, right, and the Grandfather also would be pretty good on this build, just the sheer amount of damage boots is given. But how do we do it? How this build work? So the build working pretty good in tier 4 Infernal Compass, right? And it's the tier 5 Infernal Compass also possible to do, but here we have problem with survivability sometimes, but most times actually dealing the damage to bosses. It's super long to kill anything in tier 5 with this current build. We did climb the pit quite far. Well, not that far, but I would say the pit with killing bosses below 10 minutes, killing the boss below 10 minutes, we currently get to, let me show you, right? And then we're gonna jump to actually demonstrating how the build works, but so this is a little bit of briefing, right? Like introduction of the build, what you can expect from it and what you can't expect from it. So yeah, we got here up until tier 58, and I stopped. Like we can go faster, but I just didn't need any more resources, and getting those resources easier in Infernal Compass than actually going for a pit. So Infernal Compass, you want the tier 5 and tier 4 giving you the same amount basically of resources, and the tier so it's better to actually farm tier 3 Compass for this build in order to get all of those enough upgrade to get your Masterwork to tier 4, right? For tier 8 you need for Masterwork 8 you need either like Infernal Compass 60, if I understand correctly, or get like deeper into the pit. Well, which we did for Masterwork in my Hellhammer. So we have Lungeon Strike, we have Upheaval here, we have Wrath of Berserker, we have Steel Grasp, and Challenging Shot, and Rally Cry. This is like the skill that this build rotated around it. But we're not using my Upheaval that often, right? It's like I say, it's very slow with skill. What we're doing here, we use an Upheaval to create, to overpower enemies. That's gonna be creating all of those blood orbs, and picking up those blood orbs doing a lot of damage. We also have, and critting also gonna be resetting my overpower, so we have a lot of like overpower going. Our power was debuffed. Like, it's still working pretty fine, and it's playing pretty fun here in this in season 5. So let's jump and see about our skill rotation, about how the build actually performing. So we jump into a little bit of demonstration for build potential. I'm gonna be talking a lot, so I'm not gonna be playing perfectly it, but we also have Hellhammer that's doing damage over time in the area of Upheaval. So this is what the actual damage coming. Damage over time from Upheaval, from a fire on the ground. Actually picking up bloody orbs, and this occasional huge overpower crits, which is sometimes a 10 million. So I didn't saw like any higher than 10 millions. I don't think I saw higher the damage this build, which is putting him pretty low on perfect build tired, right? Whirlwind build Barbarian can deal around 500 million crits, something like. I see videos with those kind of a damage, but again, we're missing all these 3 mystic unique items that we want for this build, which just can boost the damage quite a bit. So demonstration. Jumping on with a Lunge Strike, using Upheaval, you saw the big crit, and there's those bloody orbs. Pick one, and Okay, let me see about this bloody orbs, right? So picking up one orb and then killing a bunch of those guys. Look at this, how many orbs we just created, right? That can bring down quite a bit of enemies just walking around. So, like I say, you don't need to cast this Upheaval pretty often. And there is damage on the ground, killing a lot of stuff with Upheaval too. Yes. Then when you need to get enemy close to you, you're using your Steel Grasp. Steel Grasp also giving enemy vulnerability, right? So this build putting enemy in a vulnerable state basically permanently. Alright, it's like very easy to make enemy vulnerable with this build. Not only Steel Grasp, but also another gear around that give you vulnerable to this build. But yeah, making enemy vulnerable with my Steel Grasp, also giving me additional damage we're receiving from Ancient Ores, which is plus 52% multiplicative damage. So that's like, I urge you to use it, especially on boss fights and stuff. So what do we have here? Masters always an overlap damage, Hellfire, and always starting with the masses. Let's go with that, let's go with that. So the build in a best of it can get something like 300 Ether from tier 3 compass, which is kinda not bad. But if we need to go a little bit harder on defenses, right? We have the challenging shot, which is also unleashing the ghosts that we collecting from Cursed Souls, right? We have some curses here, Vampiric Curse, and the souls, even in tier 4, tier 5 compasses, they're dealing a decent amount of damage. They're giving decent amount of damage to the enemies. We're killing stuff pretty slow here, it's just not flowing slow. The game feeling weird today. Like it's lagging. What else? We also kinda can stay in the permanent state of being unstoppable, right? Because we have on my boots, which is reducing the attacks, reducing evade cooldown. We have the vampiric bat form, right? Evade. Turning myself into cloud of bats, becoming unstoppable for 2.5 seconds, right? So basically, we get an unstoppable from Rallying Cry, we get an unstoppable from Rafter Berserker, which is there for getting unstoppable. We get unstoppable with Upheaval. Our Fury generation, like you see, pretty good here, right? We have Fury generation per second, 10 Fury per second, and we also generated Fury on kill and on crit. The build have pretty good critical damage, critical strike chance because of the low rank talisman, and we're very low rolled on this talisman. It could be like way better, but it's I couldn't found another one, unfortunately. Okay, killing stuff, spam stuff faster. So this is basically a rotation we have for this build. Every time I need extra toughness, right? I can use my normal attack, the launch attack in this case, so providing me with 20% resistance to all damage. That's what you do it. Like you see, the attack speed with this Upheaval is very slow. That's why we're trying to actually, what we need to do is here is actually spawn the stuff and then go around and blowing up this orb. That's the faster way to kill these things. Otherwise, casting Upheaval could be pretty fast if you can do it with 100% attack speed. 100% more attack speed, right? But it's not possible to actually get it like normally. Normally, it's like actually not possible. If you're getting some invigorating buff here in this event, I can show you how good it is. Summon Ether Lords, Master Spawn Ether Lords on Death. Okay, let's go Ether Lords on Death. Let's go this. Doing pretty bad here. So there's Ether Lord, died with the two hits with my Upheaval. Blow them, get more of the stuff. Challenge them, is the Lord dead? The game feeling laggy. So there's a couple of stuff about this setup that kind of feel bad about, clunky about, rather say, the skill itself. So first of all, there is this jumping, right? When every time I'm jumping, there is a chance I just get myself stuck in terrain for a couple of seconds, for 2-3 seconds in terrain, and that's the clunkiness of well, of Vampiric Curse, Vampiric Jump.
I'm not ready yet.
That's the clunkiness it has, unfortunately. There's also the Steel Grasp, when it's putting the enemy behind you, preventing you from like retreating. Especially, it was kind of bad in early levels. Alright, it's the mouse with more damage. Okay, Hellborn hunted me. Let's go this. Doing pretty low on actually Easter. So blow them to pieces. I just feel like the damage on the ground dealing quite a bit, like half a million damage over there. Half a million here and there. Let's get those Hellborns here. I'm not using my Berserker for damage, but it's actually will buff my damage and my speed as well if I use it properly. It's usually sitting there to get in yourself that source of unstoppable. All right, when we can get it. So it's partially for that. We also can get, like I say, unstoppable from Rallying Cry. Rallying Cry also reduces enemy output damage. And another source is my jump, right? Exalted Complex, Exalted Hellborn, grant more Ether. Hellborn, more Hellborn to spawn. Fallen Council doing more damage, 15 Ether. That's not worth it. Okay, last wave. We're doing pretty bad here in terms of Ether. I feel like the game lagging quite a bit. Like more than usual. Okay, this is the worst. Is the Lord that could be spawned. Kill them with the souls. Just jump there. You saw like I'm jumping and stopping on my tracks because there is that.
I must wait.
Bug with it's not happening that often, but today for whatever reason it happened way more often than usually. We're waiting for some patch, by the way, for the day. Today the day of the patch.
I must
so
wait.
yeah, like here we can get easily somewhere around 300 Ether. That's more or less a standard amount of Ether for
I'm not ready yet.
a tier 3 tier 3 stone. Infernal Compass. Okay, let's go and finish with this, and we're gonna be talking about actually skills, explaining rotation, explaining items, and doing every else. So, like you see here, can kill this stuff decently fast, and it's about quite slower in tier 4, right? But the generally cleaning speed of normal monsters is really fast on as same as a tier 3 for this. For tier 4 as well, the same as tier 3. Okay, we're just grabbing all of this gold for now. Don't want to spend my stuff all of this. There you go. So we got like 300 easier. Like I say, that's about what we can expect for this on the tier 3 compass. Anyway, let's see about the items, what we're using for items, what kind of skill we're using for this build, and talk about all of this in more details. The build have pretty good cleaning speed. For everything at level 100, level 100, even level 140 normal monsters, elite monsters, it have pretty good cleaning speed, especially if you're talking about droves of enemies. But when you're talking about fighting elites, right? On fighting elites, we're generating too low of blood orbs, and the upheaval damage itself, the upheaval DPS is too slow to actually, I mean, the bosses, right? To actually fight the bosses fast enough, right? So even tier 100, level 100 bosses on this Infernal Compass tier 3 weren't like killed that fast, despite saying fast, weren't killed that fast. Tier 4 Compass bosses dying even slower. In any case, what we have in here for skills, let's start with the skill tree first, then we're talking about items, and then we're talking about Paragon points. So first of all, we have Launching Strike, right? It was pretty useful to generate your Fury early game, right? And I was using Endless Fury, so buffing more, giving more generation Fury early game with Launch Strike. It also healing you a little bit if you're attacking healthy enemy, which is, well, which is nothing. And Critical Strike with this putting in a Berserker state. Another thing I need to say about this build permanently in Berserking state, right? It's always Berserking, so we always getting this advanced bonus from Berserking, as well as bonuses from other, well, other bonuses, damage bonuses from other bonuses. As vulnerable, build permanently making enemy vulnerable, and like 99% of the time enemies are vulnerable fighting this build, and 99% of the time I can make myself unstoppable as well. So that's the 3 aspect of the build that you need to be aware of. Like you saw before, Upheaval, my main skill. So when you level up the build, you want to get Upheaval to rank 5 as fast as possible. And you also would need specific items to make it great, right? Upheaval by itself, it's not really a great skill. Again, I'm saying it again, it's not really the great skill. But this is a skill we choose for this particular build. It was fun. We get as much as we could from this, not spending hundreds of hours farming for those mystic uniques. Well, if you have a better character, right? If you have tier 1 mage build, and we can farm those mystic uniques pretty fast. At least a helmet and a ring, right? At least those. So, Upheaval, we have Enchanted Upheaval, chance to stun enemy and damage, we have no choice but to take it. Early in the game, I was using this Violent Upheaval, so if I damage at least 2 enemies or the boss, I'm putting myself in Berserking stage. Later in the game, we switched to dealing direct damage to enemy with a skill that is not Upheaval. We just have the Launching Strike and well, any other skill, right? So it's increasing my Upheaval damage for 12% for the next 6 seconds. It's a little bit damage buff, but it's still a pleasant one. So we have a Rounding Shot here, mainly for Unstoppable activation. And, well, it's generating me some fury. I don't care about getting fortified here. We also have Challenging Shot. It's my main skill to get this tanky protection 40% damage reduction for 7 seconds. Also getting that bonus life while the skill active, right? 20% bonus to maximum life. It's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. We had like 50k life on this build at some point when we fought lilies. I went to fight Uber lilies with this, and well, the build didn't kill it. I wasn't able to kill it. Then again, I pretty bad in the fight in lilies. The build, I guess, is very slow, and I wasn't dodging some attacks which is I meant to dodge. I'm a mediocre gamer. Like, my reaction speed pretty mediocre. So like, if you're like saying, well, just dodge everything, well, that's not for me. I want to build to tank it. I'll kill the stuff fast, because like Diablo is all about killing stuff fast before it's gonna retaliate. So like that's most of players are mediocre, as I am, by the way. Anyway, what else we have into the defense skills? We have additional maximum life 15% and damage reduction to elites 12%. We're gonna be talking about the build stats, by the way. I should have started with the stats after demonstration. I don't know why we jump into skills. Kinda out of practice here, right? We also have booming voice to increase the duration of the shots, and we have a little bit damage reduction from shots. We have gaining damage reduction. We are berserking 12%, and we remember we're always berserking, so we always have this 12% damage reduction above everything else, right? Above all of us legendary aspects and stuff. While berserking for regeneration also faster, pretty good to have. We have Pit Fighter, increased damage to close enemies and gain distant enemies reduction. Critical strike chance bonus, that's fine. And you also have exposed vulnerability from actual skills. So every time I'm using this Steel Grasp and if I didn't make enemy vulnerable with Steel Grasp, alright, I will make them vulnerable with exposed vulnerability if I hit them with Upheaval next time. Alright, so this has covered quite a bit of area of enemies that could be staying behind me, then didn't get hit by the Steel Grasp or anything. We also have a Vampiric Curse, which is have a chance to, unlucky hit, to get a Cursed vulnerability as well. So that's another source of making enemy vulnerable. So basically, 99% of the times the enemies I'm fighting are vulnerable. So Steel Grasp, very important skill for this build, in increasing the damage to solo bosses actually, because of our item selection and because of it's making enemy vulnerable constantly, right? So that's like 1 point in there. Each time you take direct damage, gain a maximum life of 45. We have this one. Defensive stance 45 have additional damage reduction. We're gonna be talking about fortifying source, right? A lot of barbarians, the whirlwind barbarians, going for a skill that when you generate in Fury over the maximum, you're fortifying yourself apparently, but it's not gonna work with this build. You need actually the legendary aspect that giving you fortified bonus when you are in berserking state, when you're dealing some direct damage. That's what we're using for this build, and it's working pretty good right now, even against bosses. We have a problem with the solo targets to raise my fortifying, but now we're fine-tuning the build to the point that we can actually make it work pretty good. Get the max fortify all the time, right? While we're fortifying 50% of maximum life, we do additional damage, 12%. Well, we have this one as well. We have a lot of points in the Wallop for my weapon. Right, bludgeoning weapon, increased damage if the enemy is stunned or vulnerable, right? So there's an additional source here. Additional damage, it's multiplicative damage to vulnerable enemies, is pretty good. Stun, also against normal enemies, can work. 1 point to the heavy-handed, 1 point to the brute force, for that a little bit of additional damage from critical strike and overpowers. Hits that happens pretty often. We have Berserker, manually SL for getting myself unstoppable, and also like in force majeure situation, but it's also giving you like quite a few damage boosts here and there. Alternatively, we can switch to Call of the Ancients, and there's a pretty good pants that can work with the Call of the Ancients as well, just improving its most unique, ancestral unique item, and we're gonna be talking about where to farm those items as well. So that's some kind of alternative there. I'm pretty interested to hear what your take on the build, guys, in the comments. How you can make it better, right? So please write it, and it's we're both learning here. You and me. So I'm willing to hear you. I'm really actually expecting to hear from your perspective. So Invigorating Fury, heal maximum life every time for 100 Fury spans. Basically every sword at Upheaval giving me that health. And this is actually was okay fighting bosses, like bosses in the pit, and bosses when you like have some semblance of fear of running out of potions. Not helping against uber bosses, right? Although uber bosses with the current build setup, item setup we try to play, we getting them to some point of life, and then we running out of potions, right? Getting them to half of the health, running out of potions, and trying to sustain myself on invigorating, but it's not really working. It's just not have enough damage, enough sustainability for uber bosses right now. By uber bosses I mean like those level 200, right? Not just like, yeah, level 200 bosses, that is. And we have an unconstrained berserking maximum duration and damage bonus here. You can try to play with Unbridled Rage, which is increased damage by cost my fury. But we do also need keep my fury at the maximum, because it's increasing my critical chance, right? So we have 153 fury, and the more we have in, the more critical chance we have, the more crits we're doing. And crits against elites is going to be resetting my, by 1 second, resetting my guarantee overpower damage. So that's like a lot of overpower damage put into that. Let's jump to stats, and then we're going to be checking out the gear and Paragon boards. So stats for this build. Quick overview. Strength, almost 2900, right? This is like, for Barbarian, it's important to have like strength stat in basically in every item. This is your main like damage multiplier coming from. Fire resistance, holy resistances, more or less like 70%. Yeah, we didn't got like actually to 70% because I didn't masterwork my Lokran Talisman. I didn't got item power 925 for Lokran Talisman. This is the new item that dropped in from this Infernal Hordes event, right? And it's been pretty hard for me to get the one. I actually only got one. Alright, I also was trying to get the sword for this build, but it's also like new items kinda pretty hard to get on this particular build, because you can jump on a higher tier of the internal compass. So damage multiplying, critical strike chance 21%, but because of the buff from Lokran Talisman is very close to 50% buff when you have a full fury generation. Critical strike damage, because we have better chance, we having more damage, right? It's 535. Overpower damage, over 1000. Vulnerable damage, this is we can play better here, right? We can play better here, so like, is a critical strike or overpower damage could be replaced with vulnerable damage, because we always like make an enemy vulnerable, especially when it's come to the bosses. So yeah, this thing you probably can increase from Javelins here at least. All damage buff 293, pretty low, actually pretty low. Damage is physical 140, damage is maces, this is coming from Paragon boards against closest enemies for 131. And damage versus burning, alright? So this ancient Hellhammer make the enemy burn, right? Burn the ground, make the enemy burning, and we're doing additional damage against burning enemies while using this hammer. So it's pretty handy for the build. Maximum life 34k right now. We did it, like you see, using most of Javel's for strength bonus here instead of health. But we did try the build with 50k health buffed with the potion, and while it's not... The moment I get this tier 3 debuff from Lilies, Uber Lilies, right, which is exponentially increase the incoming damage to you. That's like the Lily skilling with me with one shot, despite having 50k health and all this damage reduction from Berserking, from 20% from using normal skills is just not working, just one shot at me. Damage reduction from Elite 12%, close enemies also damage reduction 23%, and maximum Fury cost. So Fury regeneration is around 10 points. When we Berserk enemy generate an additional 2 Fury, and we also getting Fury on kill here. Cooldown reduction only 14%, pretty low, but enough for this build. So that was overview of the stats. Now let's get to the items, right? How the items are synergizing with all of those skills we are talking about. How they are synergizing with skills. So there's 2 important items here that you want for this build. Important items and important actually... Okay, 3 important items, legendary affixes, right? Legendary... So first of all, it's Hellhammer. Hellhammer, I was pretty lucky to get it from a normal chest, but you can farm it from Beast of the Ice, right? So if you're looking for the farmable stuff, the Beast of the Ice loot table, which is can drop Hellhammer and can drop his Ancient Oath Axe that we also using for this build. So it's one first boss that you want to farm, Beast of the Ice. You can find it like pretty near the curve shot basically, and it's required distilled fear, which you will get from Nightmare Dungeons. So the Beast of Ice is like level 85, I believe, boss. So you can get it like pretty early, on level 75 even, when you just switch to the... well, we're switching to War Tier 4 level 55 for this build, so... Well, level 75, maybe even earlier than that you can find this, depending on the items you have. But yeah, I do recommend it to try to farm it as fast as possible to get this Ancient Oath and Hellhammer. Alright, another thing you want to fight and to farm is Duriel. Duriel, you know, which is giving you this Tusk Helm of Jerritz the Mighty. That's another item that's gonna boost your build pretty good. And like I say, both of those, so the Beast of the Ice, you can find basically very close to the Kyowa shot. Here we go, glacial fissure, and just right outside there. And the Duriel, or the Duriel, one of this, I can't remember where Duriel is. Is it 100 Manhole or Gasping Greaves? It's one of those bosses. Well, let me see. Duriel, Kings of Maggots. Okay, Duriel is the Kings of Maggots. So Kings of Maggots is down here. Gaping Grievous. That's where you find that bastard. Right, so this is important one to have. And we see it's only one weapon that we actually master work to tier 8. And we get lucky to get Upheaval. Plus 11. We didn't have like any uber affixes. We have some good hell hammers early on with uber affixes, like this one plus 8 to upheaval right away for a 867 item power. That was pretty good, also find. But I didn't get any uber affixes with my limited farming of the Beast of the Ice. So party 11 to upheaval is pretty good as well. And upheaval ignites the ground, burning enemies for additional 11k, and this 11k is actually 500k with the current damage buffs, and we're also dealing bonus damage to them when they're burning. Wonderful, wonderful. So the next item on the agenda, what we want actually, legendary affix, is this one. This is like limited you in the use of your upheaval, actually killing an enemy faster by just cast one upheaval, use that overpower attack on multiple enemies, spawn these blood orbs, right? When you core skill, overpower the enemy, spawn the 3 volatile blood orbs. And those drops also doing around 500k damage, so they're killing stuff pretty fast as well. You just cast upheaval on the multiple enemies and just running, picking up those orbs, and then just killing everything that's trying to run close to you. That's another skill that important. It's also every 20 seconds you have a guarantee overpower. It's working pretty well in conjunction with this legendary aspect. Every 20 seconds, your next upheaval cast is guaranteed to overpower enemies, dealing additional damage, multiplicative, and every time you critical against elites, because you will see a lot of elites in late game, right? You can reduce the timer for this guarantee overpower by 1 second, and you see those upheavals gonna be overpowering enemies pretty often, creating those blood orbs. So that's the 3 cornerstones of this build, right? Everything else that we have here is just enchanting the build haphazard. Starting with ancient oaths over here. So what we have for ancient oaths: strength, cooldown reduction plus steel grasp, but we also have additional chains for steel grasp, making it better. And enemies that got hit by steel grasp take an additional multiplicative damage. Good for boss fights. Steel grasp itself was a pretty clunky skill to use, especially with upheaval. So you cast in your steel grasp, you pull in all the enemies, but if there's a lot of enemies, for whatever reason, the game put in those enemies behind you. You're basically locking your character in position you can't move. Upheaval only dealing damage up front of you in a cone, and those enemies are standing behind, staying there and doing your damage. You also need like 1 second to cast upheaval. It was such a pain using the chains, grasp, and upheaval, the steel grasp and upheaval in the first time we came to the world tier 4 and didn't have items. It literally was death sentence. You put enemies, they just surround you, you can't move, they're killing you before you can cast upheaval. That's all. I think the grasp chain always need to put, the steel grasp chains always need to put enemy in front of you, like park them close, but just they should not supposed to put the enemies in behind you. So the developers need to fix this. Later on, I'm usually killing the normal enemies with the chains, so the chains only pulling elites towards me, and I can kill those elites with upheaval. We also can stun pretty often with the chains, so I have a time to cast my upheaval after the chains. So that's the third items uniques that you can farm. And the fourth item we have here, a helmet. Task Helm of the Jyotis the Mighty. So it's giving you attack speed while berserkering, it's giving you damage, 153 damage while berserkering, and movement speed while berserkering. Also, while you have berserkering already, you have 46% chance to become more in range, dealing more damage by 15%, and generating 2 fury per second. we always, like I say, we constantly berserkering, thanks to the other legendary aspect here. Fury of the Berserker, right? While you're above 45 Fury, you always berserkering below 2 Fury per second. It's pretty important for this build in a current state to have to generate at least 6-8 Fury per second. Right? It's pretty important. I found myself playing behind every time when I don't have this constant Fury generation while I berserk, per second. So like I really found this behind. So when I have this 9-10 Fury generation per second, it's a perfect Fury generation for me, and it's keeping me like using my upheaval pretty often even against the bosses without running low on the Fury for my crits and for my actually bonus damage and all shit. Speaking of the crits, another very important item to get, Locran Talisman. Like I say, it can drop from a different chest, but it's mostly dropping from... It's a new item from this Season 5, it's mostly dropping from those Infernal Compass chests. So it's giving you plus bonus to all stats, giving you some more resources, critical strike damage, more critical strike damage, resistances, and legendary aspect. You skill gain around 0.17 critical per chance bonus per point of primary resources you have, up to 18 for 100 resources, right? 18 chance towards my 25 critical chance I currently have. But each point below 100 giving you 0.2 critical strike chance. So it's we have 53 points below the 100, right? So this is giving me that additional close to 50% chance or above the 50% chance critical strike when we use an upheaval from my full fury, and it's happened pretty often, and I crit with this against elites, and I resetted my overpower. That's how the build working in general. So that's a cornerstone skills. What do we else have? We have fortifying, right? The barbarian do benefit a lot from fortifying themselves. Obviously, we're getting some bonus damage. We also have less incoming damage to us. I found out that I can't even generating this fury per second, 10 fury per second when I'm berserkering. Because the berserker taking 2 fury per second, when I have the affix that should give me fortifying when we have over fury generation, right? It's just not working as good as this just constant damage done by fortifying, right? Direct damage dealt while berserkering, giving you this fortifying damage, fortifying points. And what has been direct damage? Every time I'm striking with my upheaval, that's direct damage. But also every time I picking up those bloody orbs around, and those orbs exploding, dealing damage to enemies, this also counts as direct damage, so building my fortifying bar pretty fast. Gloves we have here, Vampiric Curse. This is one trait I was like very much contemplating about and playing around, bringing it back, giving it like, you know, putting it back and removing it, but it's still working pretty good. Especially in higher tier compasses, higher tier rounds with 140 monsters level, 160 monsters levels. So you are cursing. It's another source of vulnerability. All right, have 34% chance if you skill inflict vampiric curse, which is making vulnerable, right? Unlucky hit, and. Vampiric Curse store souls deal increased damage as well. So those souls, when you press in your defensive skills, challenging shot or rallying cry, it's still also decent amount of damage. It's good to clear a lot of enemies around you. Alternatively, there's another good trait to pick over here. I believe we can put them on the gloves. It's working pretty good with my Hellhammer. So fire. Let's see, again, increase damage to set of type of damage, right? 30% increase damage to fire, lightning, or physical damage, or cold and poison. So for every 7 seconds, you have 30% to fire and physical damage over here, which is working pretty much with Hellhammer, and that's what you can replace this Vampiric Curse over here. Alright, because we already have like the chains for making enemy vulnerable every time. Basic skill grants 20% damage reduction. That's probably must be if you don't have the helmet. That Harley Quinn helmet that was showing in the beginning of the stream. Alright, the Uber helmet, or what they call it here, Mystic, right, Ancestral, which is giving you that 20% damage reduction. You probably do want this basic skill grant reduction. Boots. We have the boots, okay, with attack reduction, reduce evaded cooldown. It's pretty important to have the specific one, and we have this unstoppable, right? When on the way to 2.5 seconds. I think it's the best way to use this stuff on the boots. And lastly, we have another legendary aspect for whenever a short skill is cast. You can reduce its cooldown up to 6 seconds, depending on how many enemies are around you. Pretty useful for for every barbarian who uses shots. And guess what? Like every barbarians are using the shots. Like you see about our items, every single item we have here just must have the strength and maximum life buff here. Right. For my breastplate, I went with the fury generation. And total armor, right? Total armor, so I can get this armor to more than 9k or close to 9k, so we have this physical reduction. Gloves we have here imprint for some damage, some stun duration also happen. 50% damage on gloves, not bad. So like you see, everything has here plus. Okay, so for gloves it's important to have plus 2 to core skills. It's just good. It's just good. Runic leggings, we can get to resistance to all elements on here, right? So there's a different leggings I was using before, the task set of the Dawning Skies, but because we need that basic skill grant damage reduction, and I also need fortifying, and I already have a helmet slot on, so I couldn't put anywhere this basic skill reduction, so I switched to this one. To my current, normal legendary pants. But this one could work pretty well for additional survivability, as well as the pants that giving you that boost damage to your... If you're not using the Berserker, but you're using Ancestral Calls, right, there's a bunch of pants like that giving you, Ancestral Calls? Ancestral Calls, what are they calling? Unstoppable. Actually, this pant's also good because we generate unstoppable pretty often. So we have damage reduction while unstoppable, and increase damage to while unstoppable for 5 seconds, while be unstoppable again. 50 primary resources on it. This is actually pretty good. This is actually pretty good. My problem was not enough. Like if I put this one on, right, I don't have like enough resistances over here. So that was my dilemma, and armor as well. I was pretty bad on armor here. But if you can sort this one up, the Tabaltus wheel, it's will be working pretty good with this build. I'll tell you guys. Oh my god, where's the pants with Ancestrals? Sync. Can't see it. Anyway, that's the idea, but it's only an idea. So fury per second we also have on my boots. Strength and maximum life, again strength and maximum life. Here strength, maximum life, resistances to all, and here we have critical strike chance. We don't need actually critical strike chance here on ring, so it can be something better like a damage, right? Resource generation and damage for Master Working it, or whatever it's called. So the Master Working, the Tempering, we want the damage and resource cost reduction or generation is better. Both of my weapons over here are maces for more like overpowered damage. Both of them have explosive vulnerability, alright, and more damage well with tampering boost. So that's basically what you want from those hammers or maces here for the items. Well, that's covered the items part, right? Again, this is not a perfect build setup yet, because we don't have like the mystic uniques, and we don't have we didn't masterwork everything over here, but in terms of the time spent on the build, it's the reasonable amount of time versus performance that well, that is actually reasonable, alright? If you have, like I say, some very powerful character and collect the resources super fast, creating this build from scratch will be way easier than just jumping in it in the beginning of the season without any resources to spend for. Paragon boards. Paragon boards. I did optimize my Paragon board after level 100. After I reached level 100, it was looking quite different before that. I think I have link to how it was looking somewhere, and I would have a link to this Paragon board, more or less approximate of this Paragon board in this video. Should be the link to our last Diablo session of this build as well in my in this current video. So check it out, video description. The starting Paragon boards and what kind of glyphs we use for it. Territorial. More damage to close enemies, damage reduction to close enemies. We have physical damage, maximum life over here. We have maximum life over here as well for this Paragon board. So this is giving me 39 dexterity, this territorial, if I place it over here, which is pretty good for it. More physical damage, and we're doing more physical damage as the maces mostly, alright, unless we're doing fire damage. There's the Bone Breaker next board coming after that. Early stages of the build, I was using this board was oversaturated with the points. I was basically taking inner strength from it, or like bludgeoning weapon damage more with two-handed bludgeoning weapons, and I was using the Bone Breaker here. Every 12 seconds, guarantee overpower. Was working pretty well in early game. Late game, we generated overpower pretty often with all the crits, so we don't need it, and we optimize it a little bit more. So we have here a Crusher, 70 strength from this board, 73% more damage as maces, and while wielding a mace, you deal increased overpower damage. That's what we have here. Brutality also is more power damage. That's next board. Next board is Warbringer board. Warbringer board, it's giving you like after using Fury Fortifying, but it's not worth to picking up. Really not worse. Maximum Fury and Maximum Life. We have Fury on Kill here. This is giving me Fury on Kill. So it's additionally generating Fury when you're killing this small fry and keeping your Fury maximized. So it's maximized to critical chance with your amulet. I'm using here the Wrath Glyph. 49 dexterity, more critical strike damage, 145 point, alright. And skill critical strike generate also Fury. By the way, it's the additional generation of Fury while you're critical striking. Resistance to all, even with this, right, so like I was contemplating if I wanted to use this one or not, but I did, and it's like additional, what, 7.5 resistance to everything. We still didn't maximize a little bit the whole resistances to 70. So these two skills are kind of important. Early in my stage I was using the Might Glyph over here in this specific Paragon board to get that a little bit bonus of resistances, but it was not really good. It was not really good. Next board we have the Decimator. It's only like legendary note that we have here. Each time I make an enemy vulnerable, your damage increased by 10%. And so that's like another reason I'm using this Vampiric Curse gloves, right, legendary aspect. Because buffing my damage like every time I make enemy vulnerable 10x for 5 seconds, and overpowering a vulnerable enemy additional 10x, so it's 20% damage, right? Is it worse for a 30% damage rate every 7 seconds? That's a question, right? Because we make it vulnerable and overpowering vulnerable enemies often when it's coming to elites, so this is basically having this 20% constant damage. Alright, so I would say that was justified, and bonus damage you're getting from a ghost unleashing the souls, that's justified keeping this aspect on my gloves. Alright, so what we have here, we have ire. While berserking, you take an additional reducing damage from elites and more damage while berserkering, and we permanently berserkering. Alright, have arrogance, have demolish, right, and for 60 points of strength here, I'm basically get into the cliffs, maximize here. We also pick up here physical damage is more life as a node, with maximum life here and physical damage here. Alright, and this moving me straight to Carnage board. Carnage board, which is a glyph of dominance. Every 20 seconds overpower, 39 willpower, overpower damage bonus. So it's a little bit pleasant bonus to to overpower damage and giving me additional overpower every 20 seconds. So I'll take it. It's also more damage while berserkering, which is pretty good for me because, well, guess what? We permanently berserkering. Yeah. Okay, and lastly, the last board is a board of a Weapon Master, which is have a very little part of it with my Exploit Glyph. Exploit Glyph, more damage to vulnerable. When enemies are damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. This can happen more often than 20 seconds, but again, additional source of vulnerable and additional source for getting this damage, 10% X damage while you make enemy vulnerable. So here we go, and we can put it's 39 dexterity on this board, and we can get this additional physical damage and strength from this board as well along the way. So that's like summarize the Paragon boards in a quick succession here. And we're getting close to that 1 hour. It's actually past 1 hour that I was predicting this whole build overview will look like. Does it worth playing it? I had my fun doing it. I have my pretty good fun playing it, but I also felt like, you know, a little bit left alone with all of those other builds, the mage builds especially this season. I'm a mage player, played all mages in the previous seasons if you saw my builds. And we decided to play the Berserker, the Barbarian this time, when it's got majorly nerfed. So this is the problem with Diablo in general. I complaining too much about it. That they just can do the math and can balance the builds that actually every build. So first of all, I have a problem is how scarce the building was in the pre-season, right? There was some builds running, but there was a scarce like builds to give you image to your imagination. It's pretty better in the season 5. We added like some aspects from a previous season, so there's more variety of a build overall. But those builds just not working, you know, compared to the top tier builds that can do everything in the game. Those builds is just, well, yeah, we have it, but we didn't done enough for them to actually work. So this is a bad approach. They have enough time to balance it. They need proper people to actually run this math and run some calculation on all of this to make this game enjoyable for everything. But hopefully for yourself, you took a look on this Upheaval build, how it can work in this season. And maybe in the next season as well, maybe there will be not much of changes to this build. Maybe they're gonna be making better, buffing it again. We'll see how that's gonna work. But yeah, so you have the idea, and you probably have some base to work on your own upheaval build if you're interested in it. I'm interested in all these Kiriki builds myself. I'm very well known for Kiriki builds in in Titan Quest or Grim Dawn, and I currently running quite a lot of Grim Dawn builds on my channel as well. So take a look at that. I think Grim Dawn is a way better balanced game when you actually can run a quirky build and enjoy it, and it still can do all the stuff in the game as well. So that's all for today. Thank you guys for joining. I would be very appreciative of if you following here on YouTube channel. That's gonna give me so much more motivation to actually do more of those kind of builds on later on for Diablo and for other like action RPGs we're playing. I really need you that follow, chat. I really need it. But again, thank you for paying attention and sticking me to the end over here to actually listen to this very last bit. Really appreciate it, guys, being here. Take care of yourself, stay safe, whatever you're doing, have fun with it. Until next time, guys. Cheers.